NFL headlines now in the offseason for 30 of 32 National Football League franchises. Of course, we are 10 days out from Super Bowl Sunday. We will talk the Chiefs and the Eagles and the biggest storylines in just a bit. Here are some of the biggest headlines from a Wednesday around the NFL. New head coach in New York, Aaron Glenn, starting to fill out his first Jets staff, and he has hired Steve Wilkes as the new defensive coordinator for Gang Green. Donnie, Steve Wilkes, maybe you remember him as an interim head coach in Carolina, getting his team to play well. The head coach in Arizona, who was ousted after only 1 year. He's highly respected on the defensive side of the ball, and in my estimation, has received raw deals as a head coach in the few gigs that he has had. I think it's a great hire for the New York Jets, of course, under the defensive-minded Aaron Glenn as well.
Yeah, stability. And by the way, being fired after 1 year in the NFL, badge of honor, you got paid 4 more years to hang out, relax, and do your job for another team in a better organization. I like that. It's a fantastic hire because I keep saying the one thing I need with the Jets is accountability. He's bringing a staff that you will need accountability if you want to get on that football field. Love the move for the Jets. I like it's crazy. Like, you're never supposed to like anything the Jets do because it's usually backwards. The Jets are doing everything they can to say, you know what, at least on Sundays, if we win or lose, when I stand up in that press conference, we're not going to hear about, oh, what did the quarterback have to say, or these high-priced veterans don't care about playing. Accountability is back in New York, and I love it.
Yeah. And Steve Wilkes is going to be not just the defensive coordinator in title, but actually calling the defensive plays, which I think if you're a Jets fan, you're happy about. Because
you like it.
Aaron Glenn, the DC in Detroit, right? But you don't really want him solely focused on defense or in the weeds there. You have to be a manager. You have to be a delegator when you are the head of an organization now. So that's probably good news for the Jets as well.
It's great news because the CEO head coach is very important to me in a lot of equations. Usually on offense, if you have an Andy Reid, of course he's going to call the plays. But he's going to be on the headsets with the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. Not calling plays, but giving his thought process like you should. Hey, blitz is coming in here. Hey, that next play, if it's 3rd and 12, do a little softer coverage. He won't call the play, but he's just going to guide that light there. And I love that. CEO head coaches certainly can work out in professional sports. We've seen it many times in the NFL.
And, of course, Aaron Glenn has the resume as well. Understanding the schematics defensively will be involved in all of those meetings and the game plan. But on game day, focusing on what a head coach should prioritize. Patrick Graham, defensive coordinator this past year in Las Vegas, who was maybe interviewing for a couple of other jobs, will return to Las Vegas as the DC, I believe, under now new head coach Pete Carroll.
Great place to live. Hey, 2 years, you'll be out of a job there. It's not your fault. You set this lineup straight here at this point. So I don't really have too many comments on the Raiders because they ain't going nowhere for 2 years when maybe the Jets could move up.
What's the deal with Max Crosby's contract this offseason? He signed an extension a few years ago now. I don't think his contract is through, but there was some conversation that maybe he wasn't all that pleased with Sin City and trying to get his way out. Of course, one of the best defensive players in the National Football League. Matthew Stafford told the Rams that he wouldn't take all that long to deliberate on his NFL future, and word is out of L.A. that Matthew Stafford plans to play in the 2025 NFL season. That's not overly surprising. That was already kind of the thought. And good news for the Rams, DRS, who are trying to build once again on 2 consecutive playoff appearances, maybe making a deeper playoff run.
And good news for Matthew Stafford's pockets as well, as he tried to play that, maybe got enticement. Don't you remember when they won the Super Bowl and the head coach, Aaron Donald, everybody was basically saying, I think we all should retire at one time. And Kroenke goes, I got more money than anybody in this league. What is it going to take to bring you guys back? That's how you play it here. Perfect by his agent. Throw a little doubt. Oh, no, the upside is there. Pay me a little bit more money. I'd be more than happy to come back. But everybody knew Matthew Stafford wanted to come back, and rightfully so. That's a good spot now to be in out in L.A.
There's been a lot of changing parts for the Rams since they won that Super Bowl in the 2021 season in Los Angeles. Super Bowl 56. They had so many changes that offseason. Guys leaving like Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey, so on and so forth. A huge Super Bowl hangover in 2022. Basically everybody, including Stafford, injured. They've dealt with injuries the last few years. But DRS, from season to season, this offseason should be a little bit crystal clear. Aaron Donald retired last year. Monumental change. Very young defensively. That young defense was great. by the end of the season and in that playoff victory for LA over the Vikings. So that improves year over year. Stafford is back. Kyron Williams back. Puka Nacua back. If Cooper Kupp can return, Tyler Higbee should be healthy from the very jump. All good signs in Los Angeles.
Yes, it is good signs. And also understand this, and I know I love to play revisionist history because it goes both ways. Let's just say that you had a good play call on 3rd and 2 inside the 20-yard line for the Rams, and it ended up being a touchdown. They probably would have been favored and probably beat Washington and headed to a Super Bowl. How crazy just a few short plays can happen and change your entire season. And you're right about this. When you start about the building blocks of a National Football League defense, it starts with young, really talented, cheap players up front. And right now the Rams have that. They can capitalize on it.
Yes, they certainly do. All right. So all that's good news, right? We talk about some acquisitions, some moving parts, some returning pieces as well. This was the headline we really needed to discuss on the Let's Go podcast that I think is Tom Brady's, alongside longtime sports broadcaster Jim Gray. Bill Belichick was making a guest appearance, as he often has, and the new head coach of North Carolina, who has won 6 Lombardi trophies as the head coach in New England, suggested that they should rename the Lombardi Trophy after Tom Brady. Donnie, what say you?
No, that's not going to happen. But you know what we can do in the NFL, which I think would be a pretty good deal, is the Tom Brady Award goes to the most cheatingest player in the National Football League for that season. You can award it just like the MVP, defensive MVP, player of the year, all that good stuff here. That would be fun to watch, like the Razzies in Hollywood. Like you have the Oscars, and then you get the award for the worst performance and the worst movie. That would be fun to do, but no, we're not changing it. Lombardi is iconic in football. You raise the Lombardi Trophy. Everybody knows what that trophy is called at this point here. Why would you change it at all? It makes absolutely zero sense, and I understand what Bill Belichick, probably being a little tongue-in-cheek, playing it up to Tom Brady. It's his show, and they have a good repertoire between each other. I get it, but no way, shape, or form, the most iconic trophy in sports outside of probably the Stanley Cup would be changed. And then, why don't the Stanley Cup? Like, hey, let's change it to the Gretzky Award. Like, that's cool. That's stupid. Don't do that. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I mean, what are we even talking about, right? Like, no, never going to happen. Should not happen. What does Belichick need to slurp Tom Brady for nowadays? They're not even working in the same league. He didn't get the Raiders job.
You know why?
I'm glad they're buddies. What? Why?
You know why? Because here's what happens. Tom, I got the number 1 quarterback on the line here. I promised that you would take him out to dinner and throw passes with him so he can come to North Carolina. Look, man, he's using that for back pocket fuel when he has to go after a recruit, and or that should be a portal that goes, how about if you talk to Tom Brady and he sets you right here? Like, ooh, that's interesting. Yeah, he's greasing the skids right now. He is.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you said that. Listen, it's just so dumb. Like, that's one of the headlines that we react to, but it's so dumb. Vince Lombardi, by the way, 5-time NFL champion, won the first 2 Super Bowls. His name will always be on the trophy. Sure, Tom Brady has won the most of anybody, any player, any coach. He has 7. Yeah, go ahead.
Who was the only team that Lombardi lost to in a championship game? I can't think. He lost one time in a championship game. Oh, that's right. It was the 1960 Philadelphia Eagles. So knocking down dynasties, that's what the Birds do, baby. So we can all go. It all goes back to the Eagles. It always does, Ben. Always.
1960, the Green Bay Packers were 8-4. 12-game season. What are we even doing?
Yeah. Let's go back to 12, man. Ooh, that's a good time. Oh, I would have liked to have been there, Frank.
What? You remember 1960?
Tommy McDonald and the boys, man. I feel like I was reincarnated. It's probably somewhere up in the upper deck somewhere. Just didn't know it.
You want to talk about a wide receiver who would have had some success in 1960. You're looking at him there on the right side of your screen. Super Bowl 59. Yeah. The countdown continues to dwindle. 10 days away from Super Bowl Sunday, including this day and, of course, Sunday as well. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. We preview Super Bowl 59 from every angle in the long build-up to the biggest game of each and every NFL season. I don't know if you guys know this, but today is Donnie Rightside's final day on the early line for this football season, as DRS is getting the big call to make the trip to the Big Easy for that big game. DRS, when do you leave for NOLA?
Sunday afternoon, having a nice flight down to New Orleans, get checked into the hotel, relax, and then away we go on a nice week here. And also, not having to wake up at 11:59 p.m. to get my next day started is going to be quite interesting. I'm not sure I'm going to know what to do with myself now. No more bedtime at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Listen, as a guy that's been to multiple Super Bowls on behalf of the SportsGrid network, all out on the West Coast, jealous of the East Coast time swing. Wish I could be there. I guess it won't be for me. I guess I got to hold down the fort.
You're going to be there in San Francisco, Ben? You putting the word in right now?
Based
on, a good word
based on where things are going, I doubt it. But anyway, I'll be here holding down the fort on the early line, making sure we have really great content for you all Super Bowl week long. And we'll check in, of course, with the crew out in New Orleans.
Who takes the chair, though? Who's taking this chair, Ben? Like, who is it? Who's in this chair for next week?
Who's filling in for you next week?
Yeah, every day the same. So Ranieri 5 days.
I think it's Joe Ranieri Monday through Friday.
Okay. All right, there you go. All right, Joey Rain.
Yeah, Joey Rain here on the early line. It will be me and Joe all next week. We'll check in with the crew in New Orleans. Will it be live? We shall see. Regardless, DRS, because this is your final day here on the early line, we'll get some thoughts from you on some of your early handicaps for the game later on in hour number 3. And, of course, we play Donnie's favorite game, Rate the Storyline, and how it will impact the narratives around Super Bowl Sunday. Here are the odds right now for where that latest check is. As we have said, Donnie, not all that much of a change, but slight movement on the money line. Minus 124 for the past 48 hours, now back up by 6 cents to minus 130 in favor of KC. Still a 1.5. That is the spread. Total remains the same at 49 and a hook. But the amount of money in bets on Kansas City on the FanDuel Sportsbook, at the very least, in terms of the spread component, continues to dwindle as well. We're in that lull. We're talking a couple of cents on the money line. So let's have some more fun. We start with our first storyline, rated from 1 to 10. So rate the storyline, Donnie. The Kansas City Chiefs trying to make history and go for a three-peat to become the first ever team to win 3 consecutive Super Bowl championships in NFL history.
Now, from an NFL landscape, rating that would be a 10. Why? Because nobody's ever done it before. But from a national landscape from fans, I'm going to put the three-peat at a 3 here. And the reason I bring that up is it's not because I'm an Eagles fan. Hear me out on this. Like, growing up for me in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia region, as we like to say, Ben, the national teams like the Chicago Bulls, like when they went three-peat, Jordan takes a year off, three-peat again, they had a lot of fans, and a lot of fans in areas that you're not supposed to have fans in if you have a rival team. Like I'm pretty sure in New York City, a lot of Knicks fans were actually Bulls fans here growing up, and the same thing nationally. Same thing, let's just go back with, let's just say the Lakers, who had a three-peat, right? You use them. Boy, Kobe and Shaq had a lot of fans nationally where people were tuning in and actually cheering them on to win their three-peat. I don't find that with the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, I respect the Chiefs for what they've done. Andy Reid is a fantastic head coach. Patrick Mahomes is a great quarterback. The storylines are there. But I don't find myself outside of, like, Kansas City Chiefs fans going, like, I can't wait to watch the Chiefs win their 3rd in a row and how great that would be. It's almost the opposite. Now, granted, the Eagles tracking as the national team is funny too, because a lot of people don't like the Philadelphia Eagles. Because I would assume if, let's just say, Washington was there just as a new team where it's like, hey, they're harmless at this point, they'd have a lot of national fans going like, please do not let the Kansas City Chiefs win that game. The same way in 2017, it's like, hey, hopefully the asteroid hits the earth where the Patriots don't win again and the Eagles don't get their first Super Bowl. It's miserable either way. So I do have that. But if I'm just rating it from a story perspective, from fans tuning into this game, I don't think many people are rooting for a three-peat for Kansas City.
Fans' perspective rating that storyline, probably a 2 or a 3. Broadcast, league perspective, absolutely a 10. It will be the most discussed storyline in New Orleans, more than likely even more so than the rematch and the revenge that Philadelphia is seeking. With all of it considered, Donnie, I'm going to call it an 8. I think history is cool. I try to tweet out historical facts about what we are seeing in sports and provide that context all the time. It is funny, though, how we change our perception, right? When Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid started this generational and dynastic run, it was like, wow, look at this guy Mahomes. Right into the NFL, winning the biggest games right away, winning a Super Bowl championship in his second full year as a starter in this league. And good for Andy Reid to finally get one. This team is fun. It's not one of those big markets. It's Kansas City. It's a historic AFL and National Football League franchise. And then we're like, oh, cool, greatness is fun. Well, now we've seen it so many times. I'm out on this whole narrative. I still think it's cool. I'll rate it an 8 on my behalf. And Donnie, just to put it into even further context, in the 4 major men's professional sports leagues, we haven't seen a three-peat in quite some time. Never, of course, in the NFL. 5 times in NBA history, most recently the Kobe and Shaq era in the early 2000s. We've seen it 5 times in the National Hockey League, but not since a 4-peat by the Isles back in the early 80s. We've also seen it 4 times in MLB history, most recently up until 2000 and the new millennium with the New York Yankees. So from that perspective, it would be cool, but we go from celebrating history to hating on greatness at the same time.
Absolutely. And that's the nature of the beast here. Nobody ever wants. It's like the crab in the bucket theory. Hey, that crab's getting out of here. All the crabs try to pull him back down and say, you're not escaping this here. You're coming back down with this misery. So we love misery at times, and misery would be like finally. And also, if you're looking at, other teams, and we're going to talk about Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, which is a really good one. So I don't want to blow the cover on that, but it's understandable. We don't want to see other people succeed. As Eagles fans, we want to see ourselves succeed here. Let's go.
Yeah, you want some revenge. More of that next.
Yeah.
We continue to rate the storyline. A week and a half out from Super Bowl Sunday in New Orleans, Super Bowl 59 between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, one of the big narratives entering is a second Super Bowl between these same 2 clubs in a 3-year span. Super Bowl 57 out in Glendale, Arizona. The Eagles a slight favorite. Kansas City won outright, 38-35 over the Eagles to start their 2 consecutive wins in a Super Bowl and that chase for history that we just discussed, the Kansas City three-peat. So rate the storyline, 1 to 10, Donnie right side. And this, of course, you feel personally, the Eagles seeking revenge over the Chiefs.
Yeah, see, I got to take myself because I just rated 10, like at that point, because I'm angry still from the last Super Bowl. But nationally, I guess it can play to a 6 or a 7 at that point because I don't think you look at the Eagles and the Chiefs as ultimate rivals, right? So that's not really a revenge situation. Like, let's just say the AFC Championship game where the Bills just can't get over the hump against Kansas City. You have that whole animosity. I don't think there's animosity. Yes, Andy Reid coached the Philadelphia Eagles before, but we're happy for Andy that he got Super Bowls because we got one. Now, understand this. If we never got one and fired Andy Reid, and Andy Reid's piling up Super Bowls and preventing us from winning Super Bowls, yes, then it would be a revenge factor on 100 as opposed to 10. But nationally, I do think it's a storyline that does play out because from my perspective of watching that football game, the anger where the Eagles had the better football team and didn't win. Well, same thing last year with San Francisco. They had the better football team and couldn't beat Kansas City either. But those other objects, which I just get so upset about, the ticky-tack call at the end of the game, which if you're calling it by the book, was a penalty. It was a call on James Bradbury. It was the right decision. But in that moment, sometimes you don't think so. But the worst case of all was the best sack defense in the history of the sport was unable to actually get any sacks because it was an ice skating rink out there. So now the fact that that's not there, revenge certainly on the mind. Nick Sirianni was the coach back then. Jalen Hurts was the quarterback. You know they're building this up and playing it much, much bigger. On a national level, it does play because this wasn't, hey, it's a rematch of 1991. Like, nobody remembers that. This is a rematch of 2 years ago in a closely contested, high-scoring football game. So it does play. I'll give it a 7 nationally, but of course, it's a 10 locally in Philadelphia, but probably a 3 locally in Kansas City.
I think it's a 9. I think this is really cool. Again, it's kind of the same thing with the chase of history because we have seen the Chiefs so often in the Super Bowl. Nobody is all that happy to see Kansas City hunt down a 3rd consecutive Lombardi Trophy. But because we have seen the Chiefs often and now for the 2nd time in 3 years, this specific Super Bowl matchup, the Eagles and the Chiefs, people are like, oh, we want some fresh blood. We don't love Philadelphia, yada, yada. This is awesome, right? This could be a budding rivalry. We have two young quarterbacks on either side of the league facing off once again. You've got Andy Reid against his former club. Maybe that was a bigger story back in 2022 than it is now. But this does kind of have the makings, Donnie, for as much as interconference foes can be, a little bit of a rivalry or at least familiarity. I think revenge is awesome. And the Eagles were great in Super Bowl 57, or at least Jalen Hurts. 374 total yards, 70 on the ground, was Philly's leading rusher, had 3 rushing touchdowns, 4 total TDs. Those 3 rushing scores alongside Terrell Davis, the only 2 players in Super Bowl history to have 3 rushing touchdowns in a single Super Bowl. Devontae Smith, elite. A.J. Brown, elite. That will be a focus once again. But, Donnie, I think that's where revenge really is, maybe even in regional Philadelphia. Not so much against Mahomes or Kelsey or Reed. It's against the Sodfather for taking a historic defensive front and making them look awful in the biggest game of a season with the poor footing in Glendale, Arizona. I know you're going to be boots on the ground next week in the Big Easy. They're not rolling in a new turf, are they? We're playing on the same exact turf they've had all year long inside the Caesars Superdome.
Yeah, we'll be inside the Superdome on Monday night, and I will make sure that I am on there running a couple routes. I'm going to make sure Kevin lines up as a left tackle to see if I can use that bend technique and get around it without slipping at that point. So we're going to try everything to make sure. Now, Kevin's not a center here, Joe Frizo. He was a tackle.
Why can't Kevin be the quarterback and Lisi be the tackle?
No, because it's about the defensive line. So I need like an actual offensive lineman to try to test out techniques on to see if I'm slipping, trying to get by him at that point. Yeah, we don't need the wide receivers. We need the defensive end versus the left tackle and that bend technique where you try to get low and you get your hips vertical and you can get around the outside. Like that's what we need. Yeah.
Rip through. Kevin's got a great kick step. I've seen it a time or two.
We're going to put it to the test. We are.
Social media video on Monday night coming out of the SportsGrid Network,
of Kevin
live from Media Day at the Super Bowl.
Watch out.
Hour 2's up next. Welcome to hour number 2 on this Thursday on the early line. I am Ben Stevens. He is Donnie Rightside into our second hour, and we continue to get you set for Super Bowl 59, now a week and a half away in New Orleans. This is DRS's final day on TEL. He heads to the Big Easy on Sunday afternoon for Super Bowl coverage for SportsGrid all next week. So we need his closing thoughts on the biggest narratives, storylines for Super Bowl Sunday, and in our third hour, some early handicaps from one Donnie Rightside. We continue to play Rate the Storyline for Super Bowl 59 DRS here in hour number 2.
Yeah, it's a good game to play here, sort of get that gauge. It's a nice way to settle in because things do ramp up once the teams get in town next week. You start to see the real practice reports come out, who's playing, who's not playing, some information to come through. We're waiting for those lines to move. You'll get those infinitesimal moves there between 5 cents on the money line, 3 cents on the money line. But we want to see the 1.5s to the 2.5s, or unbelievably going back to the Eagles as a favorite. There's so many things to talk about, prop bets and everything. It's good to see they're all out there to digest. And then next week, you start eating some dinner with that stuff here, man. I can't wait.
We cannot wait. You're going to eat dinner next week?
How can I say it? Literally, no.
It?
But figuratively, yes. There you go.
Right. Literally, no. Figuratively, yes. Guy doesn't eat dinner, just has a massive
numbers.
Lunch. I can't wait for you to find your favorite burger place in the Big Easy and send back some photos. All right, we continue to play Rate the Storyline 1 through 10 for those biggest narratives entering the biggest football game of each and every season. Rate this storyline, DRS. Patrick Mahomes chasing GOAT status. Greatest of all time. Just so we can follow up. Here is the playoff resume already for Patrick Mahomes. Of course, 7 years as the starter in KC. The Chiefs have played in the AFC Championship game all 7 seasons. They have hosted said AFC title game 6 of those 7 years. Now have reached the Super Bowl 5 times in this 7-year window. They have won 3 Lombardi trophies, 2 straight, looking for 3 in a row. So again, back to the storyline. Patrick Mahomes chasing GOAT status. 1 through 10, Donnie, where do you fall?
I mean, honestly, it's got to be a 10, doesn't it? Because we're now taking a look at a guy that can step into those uncharted waters of Tom Brady and say, boy, I didn't just win my next MVP Super Bowl trophy or my next Lombardi, and it's a last time out of the gate like John Elway getting too late in his career. He is piling these up while he's right in the middle of his prime. And some of the jokes that you make about Kansas City is, we don't like the style of play and all they do is win. What happens if Andy Reid just goes to his general manager, Brett Veach, next year and goes, you know what, let's have some real fun. Give me a top running back and a top wide receiver to really get after this. Because even last year you looked at, that's not all that talented of a team winning the most impressive playoff run in the history of the sport that I've ever seen. And then coming back this year and saying like, well, we added a couple nice pieces here, but not a lot of superstars, and doing the same exact thing on a run to a Super Bowl. That's what's so impressive, because never once have you brought up, and you'll get this if the Eagles win the Super Bowl. Anybody could have been quarterback on that team, how dominant they were for Jalen Hurts, which is unfair because all that guy does is win. But Patrick Mahomes, I don't think ever gets the benefit of the doubt now, going like, well, what do you want him to do? He's got the most talented team. All he has to do is go out there and do whatever he wants because it's so easy. That's not the case. So Brady also earlier in his career with a couple of those teams, like, I don't know how they win. Belichick is a defensive wizard, but that team barely has any running backs or, a good offensive line, no weapons to speak of at wide receiver in that upper echelon talent that you have. I'm talking earlier in his career. So now you're getting into that saying, boy, Mahomes is the piece to the puzzle that absolutely, let's just say, like back, stirs the drink for that team. He's everything for that team in the middle of his prime. Absolutely, that's a 10 story for GOAT status.
I would agree, DRS. I'll give it a 9 just because of the idea that we're a little bit tired. But I think hopefully we focus on the individual greatness that is Patrick Mahomes. Again, all of these trends start to change as we see these players, these familiar faces, and the same teams in these spots each and every year. At the end of a career, you really look back on greatness and quantify it and contextualize it. I think we can do that right here, right now with Patrick Mahomes, seeking his 4th Lombardi Trophy in his 7 years as a starter in the National Football League. Of course, Tom Brady, who we'll talk about in just a moment, in his role in Super Bowl 59, won 3 Lombardi trophies in his first 4 years as the starter in New England. But then it took the Patriots a while to get back there. They lost to the Giants in a Super Bowl, but they only had 2 Super Bowl appearances in the next 9 years after the 2004 campaign, which was that 3rd Super Bowl ring for the Patriots in a 4-year window. Then they won a Lombardi Trophy in the 2014 NFL season. That was the 4th. Patrick Mahomes can get that done in the 7th year of his career. That was the 13th season for Tom Brady. The longevity of the GOAT, that is Brady at this moment, it is really hard to look past. He has 7 Lombardi trophies in more than 20 years in the National Football League. Mahomes is certainly on pace to surpass that if they can withstand these historical winning ways. Stat-wise, Mahomes has the benefit of the doubt, at least through 7 seasons, in comparison to Tom Brady in basically every single metric.
He does. And also, as players change, the quarterback stays the same, but your wide receivers change, your running back change. You have the best tight end in the history of the sport in Travis Kelsey. Who knows when he's going to actually hang him up, but clearly he's not the same player that he was 5 years ago, but still good enough to be a top-shelf NFL player at this point, which makes it so interesting because it just seems like if the quarterback and the head coach are on the same page and as good as you can get, Belichick and Brady, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, as long as you have that same, sort of institution around you that can still build that team up and so have the greatness at quarterback to make the plays when you need to, who knows where it can end up here, which is so interesting. Football is supposed to be the hardest sport to do this because you're not supposed to get longevity of 15, 16, 17, 18 years. As a quarterback, we're starting to see them play longer, but still the running back and the wide receivers and all those pieces change around you. But for you and that organization to still be great in a sport that says, okay, you're great this year. How about the toughest schedule next year and the worst draft pick? Go out and enjoy that here. And everybody knows when you win the Super Bowl, your entire team feels like they all should get paid double because of what they're worth now. It's so hard to keep good teams together. But some of these guys like Brady and Belichick and Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, they seem to be doing just fine with that.
23 seasons for Tom Brady. What is so remarkable, in the 22 years he was the primary starter, he played a full season in 20 of those 22. He was always out there able to guide his teams to those biggest games. And of course, now that Tom Brady has retired, he is the lead color commentator for Fox Sports, who will be the broadcasting network for Super Bowl 59. So as we watch and witness Patrick Mahomes try to chase that greatest of all time status, rate this storyline. Tom Brady on the call for Fox in Super Bowl 59.
Nationally, I really don't think people care. Let's go 5. But personally, for me, I go 10 because I love this. Because you are watching an active time, as we talked about it. We just said GOAT status, chasing GOAT status. What do you think of that story? Do you know who Patrick Mahomes is chasing? Not somebody in history 100 years ago. The guy calling the game. You don't think Tom Brady's going to watch this game? And I know he's supposed to be neutral and not supposed to be, unhanded there. But every time Patrick Mahomes gets stopped on third down, could throw an interception, they lose this game, that says you're just another year and another Super Bowl away where I can have my time. You know deep down the competitor. And Brady, the ultimate competitor, wants Mahomes to lose this game and lose it badly. No doubt about it.
And when Tom Brady in broadcast sees bad quarterback play or a mistake, he lets you know about it because it still makes him angry. More on the early line up next. Continuing to rate the storyline for Super Bowl 59 in every single angle of the biggest game of every NFL season. We talked about Patrick Mahomes, quarterback for the Chiefs, trying to chase that GOAT status in his 4th Lombardi Trophy in only 7 years as a starter. Jalen Hurts leading Philadelphia to a 2nd Super Bowl in a 3-year run. You can argue what Jalen Hurts has done in terms of his production on the football field at times, but guiding his team to success, something we closely associate with the quarterback position in the National Football League and really football as a whole. There is no doubting Jalen Hurts' overall success. So rate this storyline, Donnie Rightside. Jalen Hurts joining the NFL's elite quarterbacks if he can pick up a Super Bowl victory.
It's a 3 because he's never going to get credit for it. He could go out and outdo Mahomes, which he did in the last Super Bowl, but the defense gave up 38 points. Wasn't his fault. He was sensational in that game. Yes, he got strip sacked on that one, which came back for a touchdown, but you never watched that game and said to yourself, like, ooh, man, I don't know if they can win with this quarterback. He was phenomenal in that Super Bowl, rushing and also passing there. So the reason I rate it so low is he wins this game. What's the narrative here? Well, they have the number 1 defense in the league. Not that they beat Patrick Mahomes, which nobody beats Kansas City, or Saquon Barkley had 162 yards and 3 touchdowns. Anybody could have played quarterback with that. He won't get the respect. Not from me, not from Philadelphia, not from the people looking at how hard it is to have the record he does and as much winning as he does over his first 5 years to get that respect. But I just look at that national narrative is, for some reason, like, anybody can just fill in and do that at any time, which is completely disrespectful to Jalen Hurts, who's still younger in his prime, going back to his 2nd Super Bowl, his 2nd NFC championship, and played extremely well. We're not even talking about Ben like, oh, man, I know he was nervous in his first one. He was terrible in that one. Yeah. Hopefully it gets better. He was sensational in his first, and I expect him to be very good in his 2nd.
This is his 4th full year as the starter in Philadelphia. Played in 15 games during his rookie campaign in 2020, but only made 4 starts. 2nd Super Bowl appearance, 2nd conference championship victory for the Eagles in these 4 years. And Donnie, at the end of Super Bowl 57, despite the loss in the performance from Jalen Hurts that we showed you earlier, he also finished runner-up that year in the MVP award as well, to, I believe, Patrick Mahomes. But it was the idea that Jalen Hurts was on the rise as that next great quarterback in the NFC, right? And the NFC didn't have Mahomes and Allen and Jackson and Burrow and all of that. Jalen Hurts could take the mantle on that side of the league. That thought has kind of dwindled, which I don't necessarily think is fair. But I think from a storyline perspective, you're spot on. It's a 4 or a 5 for me. We'll give the respect that is deserved, but more than likely, if the Eagles win this game, it's a great defensive effort. It's consistent play out of Jalen Hurts, and it's probably a great game from Saquon Barkley. That's not a recipe just for Super Bowl 59 success for the Birds. That's how they have reached this stage. That's how things have been conducted all year long in Philadelphia. But, it's not really our storyline, DRS. As I said last week, and maybe it made air. If there are 1,000 Jalen Hurts haters out there, our producer Joe Frizo is one. If there's 100, Joe Frizo is one. If there is one Jalen Hurts hater in the world, it is Joe Frizo. If there are zero, then Joe Frizo is deceased. So, Joe Frizo, in our ears, tell us, how would you rate the storyline of Jalen Hurts trying to become an elite quarterback for Super Bowl 59? A 7. Like a 7.
There you go.
So, let me ask this further. And, Donnie, we could ask and then react. Joe, if Jalen Hurts comes out on top in Super Bowl 59 and the Eagles win a Lombardi Trophy and Hurts is good in the game, how will you feel about Jalen Hurts moving forward? Will he be a top 3 quarterback in your mind in the NFC? We cannot repeat what Joe Frizo just said over air. But let's just say it was rather slanderous. Those were big words by Joe Frizo. I'll just say, Donnie, we will provide the necessary props that Jalen Hurts is deserving of. But to your point, the Eagles are the best defense in football. You would think Philadelphia has to play great on that side. Is there a pathway for the Eagles to win if Saquon Barkley is mediocre? More than likely not, but we don't expect Saquon Barkley to be mediocre. Here are his props for Super Bowl 59. 22.5, the attempts number. 112 in a hook, the rushing yards prop. 13.5 receiving yards and minus 190 to hit pay dirt, the best price of anybody to find the end zone in New Orleans. So rate this storyline. Saquon Barkley, the best free agent signing ever?
It will be a 10 if the Philadelphia Eagles win the Super Bowl. Now, was it the most consequential free agent signing in the history of the NFL? No. That was 1993, Reggie White leaving the Philadelphia Eagles in that first big wave of you can now be free agents and now get big money from other franchises, and went to the Green Bay Packers for the most money. But if you're just looking for a steady impact from a player, that really changes. Because let's think about this. There's been other really good free agent signings across the league, but did we ever have one that goes, because I'm being honest here, the Eagles do have a great defense. Yes, they do. And Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. They got wideouts. But let's just say it's Kenneth Gainwell as the starting running back. The Eagles are not in the Super Bowl. Like, that's how good Saquon Barkley has been. Now, you can say, like, hey, well, Patrick Mahomes never was on the Chiefs or, Brett Favre. But we're talking about true free agents here that were able to pick and choose their team that were let go. And one team goes, you know what? You could be the missing piece to the puzzle. As Reggie White, who went from the Eagles to the Packers, who weren't a great franchise when he arrived there, ended up winning a Super Bowl with them. That's the impact I'm talking about. So we might be doing this a week and a half a little bit early because, quite frankly, you can put him on the pantheon of maybe the greatest overall impact in the first season where he came to a team. It would be Saquon Barkley, not because he was just good on the team. Historic things, rushing for more yards than anybody from week 1 through the Super Bowl in NFL history and getting a Lombardi Trophy. That probably would be the best. I rate that at 10.
So quickly, DRS, those props that we showed you for Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. Let's say both guys approach those numbers, play well, the Eagles win the Lombardi Trophy. Who goes home with the Super Bowl 59 MVP award?
I still think they're going to give that to Saquon Barkley based on the year that he's had as a carryover. Even though you are not supposed to do that, the human element is going to creep in. I believe that.
Yep, I would agree as well. Barkley a shorter price right now than Jalen Hurts. More on the early line next. We continue rate the storyline for Super Bowl 59. Of course, a huge storyline in narrative, whether fair or unfair, that has followed Kansas City in this dynastic run, and certainly this season, is what people believe is help from the officiating, love from the refs. I think it's because we are seeing an elite franchise play in marquee game after marquee game, allowing people to be mad at Kansas City and try to blame the referees. But, Donnie, let's talk storyline for Super Bowl 59. Rate the storyline, the impact of the refs in the biggest game of the season.
I'm hoping it's just a 5, which means like either side wasn't upset where it was being thrown away at that point, but it could ramp up to a 7, 8, 9, or 10. The only thing we ask for here is, even if you're on both sides here, when you see a play that's called and they show the instant replay and it was a clear foul, Nobody really gets upset by that. Like, I mean, last week, let's just say Jalen Hurts runs it into the end zone for a touchdown. They show the close-up here on where the call was. Landon Dickerson reached out and grabbed Bobby Wagner. Nobody gets upset by, like, yeah, that was a call at that point. But also on the Eagles, where they had one of the bigger plays of the game, could have called a hold on Saquon Barkley, but then the refs made up for it 2 straight plays on calls that were not made against the Eagles. We don't like those. So even in big moments of games, on big passes in the Super Bowl, which I'm sure are going to happen, Saquon with a 62-yard run to the outside, if it's a legitimate penalty, call it. If it's ticky-tack and has no idea about the play itself on the opposite side, don't call it. Fans are fans alike. We understand where if a player gets 2 feet down in bounds and they called it out of bounds and it gets overturned in your favorite team, nobody's throwing their, pizza box or slice of pizza, better yet, at the TV going like, I can't watch this anymore. That's all I ask for. Either way it happens, bad calls are going to happen, but just don't have an impact in the game where everybody goes like, how could you possibly call it? Because quite frankly, I was left that way 2 years ago, Kansas City and Philadelphia at the end of the game where Jalen Hurts was going to have a chance with about 2 minutes ago, down 3 points in that football game. That would have made for a magical theater that we got robbed of doing that. That's all we asked for. Right. Even if it goes back to NFC Championship games, Ben, like the Rams and the Saints game, we all knew that was a horrible call, which sent one team to the Super Bowl and left one team home. You just can't do that. Just call the stuff you have to call, point of attack plays, leave everything else alone.
Yes, and listen, the officials are going to have an impact on the game. We do not want them to impact the outcome or decide what that final score is going to be. At the end of Super Bowl 57, that very controversial holding call on James Bradbury, on Juju Smith-Schuster, that frankly looked like holding, but people get mad in that stage of the game. How could you? You call the play what it is, and Kansas City took advantage, iced out the clock, kicked a field goal with 6 seconds left. That was the game winner. We looked at the AFC Championship game, right? Josh Allen stuffed on 4th and 1. Mark Zinno lost his mind about it and started questioning the rule book all around the National Football League. Don't leave it in the hands of the officiating. And oh, by the way, there were 13 minutes remaining in regulation. And later in the fourth quarter, the Bills tied the football game at 29-all. It did not dictate the outcome. An important juncture in potentially the wrong call? Sure. But what really matters if the referees impact the outcome, mainly dictate that outcome. I do not believe they will. I'm going to put it at a 2. I'm sure the public would tell you in large part this is upwards of a 7 in terms of that storyline rating. A couple of great offseason acquisitions for the Eagles. We talked about Saquon Barkley. You could look at the draft with Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell as well. But, Donnie, all of that on the defensive side of the football orchestrated by one guy, Vic Fangio, longtime defensive wizard in the NFL, back near his home area, and, of course, has been incredibly successful coordinating the best defense in the NFL this year. So rate the storyline. This would be Vic Fangio's first Super Bowl ring. How do you rate it?
Not 2, to be honest. Come on now. When do we look? Buddy Ryan, 1985. Like, you knew the defensive coordinator and how great he was at that point. You know, there's other guys out there. Marvin Lewis of the Ravens back in the day when they were winning and had such a great defense. But let's be honest here. Steve Spagnuolo's got multiple rings and now finally, like, oh yeah, he's a pretty good defensive coordinator. I wonder if he ever gets a head coaching job again. So locally, it might be higher in Philadelphia, but for the defensive and/or offensive coordinator to get the ring and the attention, like he finally got his ring, we don't ever talk like that. So I would rate that low. You know, I love my guy Vic. Guy does wonders for the Eagles, but as a storyline, come on now. Can't be worried about defensive coordinators getting rings now. Stop.
Has been in the NFL since 1986. Yeah. This would be his first Super Bowl ring. By the way, Steve Spagnuolo looking for his 5th as a defensive coordinator in his NFL coaching career. That might be the biggest storyline for Kansas City. Plenty more on the early line up next. All right, so many storylines to finish out here as we continue to look ahead to Super Bowl 59, 10 days from now. And then we'll transition to the National Hockey League. Our guy Pete Jensen joins us in just a little bit. Rate the storyline rapid fire. So many fun ones that are a little bit more under the radar. The Carson Wentz Super Bowl, of course, played in Philadelphia. Wasn't the guy to lead the Birds to the last Super Bowl victory. The backup now in Kansas City. 1 to 10, DRS.
A -1, like is even if he gets in the game, then it rises to a 12 because that means the Eagles automatically will win that football game. So if Carson Wentz somehow shows up as the starting quarterback at any point in this football game, that will be a good thing, as opposed to it's so out of whack in the fourth quarter that Andy Reid is dialing up bombs for Carson Wentz to sort of hang another touchdown on the Philadelphia Eagles. That would be a bad one. But I don't think anybody is talking about we need to get revenge and thank goodness to beat Carson Wentz. Absolutely not. If he was the starter for a long time, yes, that would be intriguing. But this absolutely doesn't even have a ripple in the water.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd say a 1, but fun for Carson Wentz, maybe nonetheless. All right, next storyline. Kendrick Lamar's halftime show in the Big Easy.
Yeah, it's a 1 for me. And good, and it's good, too, because now I actually get a 20-minute, 25 break at halftime to maybe take the dogs out for a walk because I know I'm not missing anything with that halftime show. So it's a 1, but really a 10 for me, sneaky, because I won't be watching. I'll be relaxing.
10 for me. I'm very excited to watch Kendrick Lamar perform. We know that SZA will be there with him. What other special guests are we going to see? And, of course, there is going to be a very tough day for Drake. It's not like us will play and everybody will sing along
Did they
in the
collab?
biggest stage.
What if they bring Drake out there? Does that change it for you? Him and Drake
Squash the
battle
beat?
at the half?
11
No,
would
not
be the
squash. Like it
storyline.
ramps up.
Oh,
like it ramps
for
up and
sure.
they throw
12.
down like at halftime. Sure.
12, Oklahoma drill while they're rapping. Yeah, I'm cool with that. I would say it's a very large storyline. All right, let's run through some fun ones. On February 9th, 2025, February 9th, a birthday for 2 key contributors for Philadelphia. Happy 28th birthday for Saquon Barkley. Happy 22nd birthday for Cooper DeJean. Rate that storyline for the Birds.
Sounds like a 50 if they win. Like who now? Also, who has the bigger birthday party after the Super Bowl in New Orleans? Like where are the people flocking to? Is it Saquon's or is it Cooper DeJean's at that point? And also, are we going to get maybe rating on a 10 to a 12? Caitlin Clark at this game with an Iowa Cooper DeJean jersey on cheering for the Eagles? Could that actually happen? Could that happen?
Well, you know,
set the world on fire?
She's a diehard Chiefs fan.
Yeah, but come on now. Change affiliations at that point. Why would she be? Where'd she grow up anyway? She grew up in Iowa, I assume then? Where did she grow up?
Grew up in Des Moines, yeah. A lot of the Midwest because they don't have professional sports teams. Like in Omaha, the Chiefs were the team. It's only 2 hours away. It's a little bit closer, but Des Moines, not far from KC. So you get a lot of that because you're not I mean, Chicago's there. A lot of Iowa fans love the Bears. There's a lot all over the place, but they're, in the state of Iowa, there's not a professional NFL football team. So
she's going to be there next to Taylor Swift again. Is that what we're saying? But not in a Cooper DeJean shirt?
Potentially, as she was for the divisional round, of course, for the Houston Texans. I'll rate Saquon and Cooper having their birthdays at a 10. What a great birthday celebration it could be. How about as we tie in all the celebrity factors that we're going to have for Super Bowl 59, Jason Kelsey's team, that being the Philadelphia Eagles, against Jason Kelsey's brother, Travis, who still plays in Kansas City. Of course, it was the Kelsey Bowl 2 years ago. People were like, I don't need to see Donna Kelsey all over my TV. What's that storyline now?
Am I supposed to rate that storyline at a 0 at this point? Why do we even care about the Kelsey brothers and who they even care? Like Kelsey's enemy number 1 right now in the Kansas City Chiefs, and Jason Kelsey just slamming the garage beer, whatever he promotes now at this point. So that's a 0 for me. Got garage beer. Did you ever drink it before?
No, but it looks really good. I've seen a lot of commercials. They do a great job with their branding.
Great name. It's a great name for a beer, to be honest. Yeah.
For sure.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. All right. If the Chiefs – is this real? All right. If the Chiefs win, Joe Thuney, of course, one of the outstanding guards in the NFL, left guard for Kansas City, ties Charles Haley for the second most Super Bowl wins ever by an individual. That would be behind Tom Brady. Joe Frizo, is that correct in everything I just said? Okay.
Yeah.
How do you,
Dallas Cowboys, San Francisco 49ers, 0 again, because I don't think kids today even know who Charles Haley, how great and crazy he was back in the day. And most people would say, like, oh, Joe Thuney, like, who's he play for again? Oh, that's right, he plays for the Chiefs. Yeah, so that's a 0 for me.
Okay. So as it stands as well, at the end of Super Bowl 57, right, 6 seconds left on the clock, it was going to be very difficult for the Eagles to come up with any play. But Jalen Hurts dropped back to try to get the ball as close as he could to the end zone. It didn't go all that far. So this, again, from our haterade Joe Frizo, rate the storyline. Jalen Hurts' inability to throw a Hail Mary if needed for Philadelphia.
I don't think you need to anymore. You know what the new Hail Mary is? You line up and hand it off to Saquon Barkley and say, you can probably run all the way down the field better than we can throw it anyway. There's no more Hail Marys in Philadelphia. The Hail Mary is toss sweep to Saquon Barkley against a prevent defense and watch the fun unfold.
Yes. All right. That makes a ton of sense. Also, I would say rate the storyline if a Hail Mary is necessary in either Steve Spagnuolo or on the other side, Vic Fangio does not bring at least 4 guys.
Puts a spy.
Provide a little bit of pressure.
There?
You need no. If there's a spy, you're working in Dallas as a defensive assistant under Matt Eberflus. That is your punishment forever. All right, here's a personal SportsGrid storyline. Of course, the boys will be working on Super Bowl Sunday for Pro Football Today, but not during the actual game, so they'll get back and enjoy their Super Bowl festivities. Rate the storyline. Kevin's canceled, perhaps, Super Bowl party. Of course, Kevin Walsh, big-time Birds backer in his home. You would assume a great time. His fiancée, Sam, a great cook, a great host. You would think they would be throwing a bonanza, but now it might be canceled if the Eagles make it. The Eagles have made it.
Yeah, see that, Ben? Where you been? The Eagles actually have made the Super Bowl. Do you actually appear on programming here? Did you not know that at this point? But by the way,
watching the game like Mark Zinno.
Let me say again why I was brought here to the network. Not because I'm probably the best face of sports here in the industry. It's actually because there was a young, fledgling sports hopeful in this business, Kevin Walsh, that couldn't find his way. Put him under my wing, and one of the things I taught him was, when your team is in a championship game, there are no parties. That is a business trip for you in your own house that you need to have solitude. You cannot have other people cheering. You cannot have people asking, why did they make that play call? Because you already know what it is. Only bad things can happen. So Kevin canceling a party, saving himself some grief and maybe years of family trauma. Because for me, when the Eagles win the Super Bowl, there are no parties. It's just a business affair that afternoon, hoping for a championship. He learned very well from me. Good for him. That's a 10. That's a 10 on the cancellation.
That's a 10 on the cancellation. I would actually disagree. I love Super Bowl parties. I think you should be around your friends. But Kevin Walsh's statement, as made to our producer, Joe Frizo, quote, there will be no party. I'm not hosting for Kosky to break one of his new walls in his new home, rooting player props on the other side of the field. Or Pat, that would be Pat Foster, one of our great producers, betting the AFC team. That was a few weeks ago. Of course, now that would be Kansas City. Rate the storyline. Donnie Rightside watching in his basement by himself without his wife and kid.
No. 27. My daughter was old enough again. 2017. Obviously, I was in Costa Rica for that, so it wasn't. But the last one, I did watch it. Both me and my daughter, explaining it to her how it went all the way through, and it was fantastic. Maybe the best bonding that we've ever had, and I look forward to doing it this year again. How about that?
It was really beautiful, man. I'm a little bit emotional. That was really, really nice. Rate the storyline.
By the way,
2017.
You want a little expansion of that story? Because I am a sentimental guy. The next morning, I wrote my daughter a little note that said how much I enjoyed that game with her. And we lost. So how about that? I don't have to be a sore loser. There you go. I'm human.
Bigger things in life, man. The bigger things in life. Rate the storyline to finish it out. 2017 Super Bowl viewing in Costa Rica. How was it?
It was harrowing. It was unbelievable. But when it ended here, don't listen up there. It's the best night of my life. Man, my goodness. Nothing better.
Writes a letter to his daughter, but that's still not his best day. All right, more of the other line. We're still 10 days away, including Super Bowl Sunday, from Super Bowl 59. But maybe you forgot, and I could understand why. The Pro Bowl games start today around the National Football League. Pro Bowlers everywhere. Today, Thursday. Look at what we have. Show them the Thursday docket. Show them that Thursday slate. Unfortunately, no betting odds as of this moment, but that would make sense. Here are our events today at the Pro Bowl games. Passing the test. A mix of quarterbacks hitting targets and answering trivia questions correctly. Yeah, trivia questions being answered correctly. A quarterback from either conference will pair up with one of his Pro Bowl games teammates who will answer a set of 5 trivia questions about other current Pro Bowlers. If the question is answered correctly, it allows said quarterback 10 more seconds to hit additional targets and get more prizes.
What are the prizes? Do we know what the prizes are? Like a year free from T-Mobile? Like what is it? Like Value
points
meal.
to win the whole thing. It's Pro Bowl games. Yeah, what is the prize?
No,
It's got to be a cash incentive.
I mean, first off, understand where the Pro Bowl is, Ben. Orlando. When it was a big deal, it was Hawaii. Players wanted to go there. Now, outside of sending them to Omaha or Indianapolis, I mean, at least Orlando's a little bit of an upgrade from that.
Come on now.
I mean, come on now. That's how serious we're taking this thing. Bad.
Satisfying Catches is a game through an obstacle course with jugs machines where you have to make those plays. The big spike measures the power of linemen's spikes. Patrick Mahomes would not be very good at that. Relay race is conveniently a relay race. Helmet harmony is not two guys banging their helmets together, thankfully. Game show that tests knowledge of teammates. And dodgeball is your classic 7-on-7 dodgeball game. Dodgeball is always fun, whether it's NFL players or your best buddies. $88,000, Donnie, for the winners of the Pro Bowl games. I think that would be an even split among the AFC and the NFC. $44,000 just for being a Pro Bowler and showing up in Orlando. Did you know that Drake May was a Pro Bowl quarterback for the AFC?
Yeah, so it was like Snoop Minnis a couple years ago for Baltimore. So
Snoop who?
Using a little luster. Snoop Minnis from Florida State. Remember him? You remember Snoop Minnis?
Snoop Huntley is the guy that plays in the NFL.
Snoop Minnis was better than him, by the way, too. Yeah. Shout out Florida State back in the 1990s. That's when it was the real deal. But understand this, too. Yeah. It is a nice little paycheck for these guys. But what would you like? But, like, pay me, and we don't have to go $88,000. If I make it $44,000. Send me to Ruth Chris in Orlando with the boys, and we all have a good, like, hey, you made the Pro Bowl. Like, that sounds better than actually having to go out and actually play these dumb games to earn your money. Yeah. Send me a check for $44,000. Send me to Ruth Chris with the boys out here. We shake hands. We dap it up. Great season. See you later. Maybe we hit Disney World on the way out and be done with it at this point. Now, I like to say this, though. I led the charge to cancel the Pro Bowl, so I'm proud of the fact that we no longer have an actual football game. So I guess this is okay, but it doesn't need to be here at this point. It doesn't. It almost feels like this should be like at the beginning of the season. Like I think I would actually care about it a little bit more. It's like, okay, we're kicking off training camp. First, it's the Pro Bowl from last year. I'm like, okay, let me see these guys mess around a little bit. The end of the season, nah, I'm not with it. Not with it.
I mean, they've got to do something, right, to try to stay relevant in this buffer weekend ahead of Super Bowl.
Why? We don't.
I was going to say.
No, we don't.
I kind of agree with you, right? It's not like the Super Bowl is going to lack luster if the Pro Bowl is not all that exciting. Donnie, can the Pro Bowl be saved, or is it just like this or nothing?
That's not. Exactly. The Pro Bowl can never be saved. But I also don't understand the point. Like, if you're the NFL, like, why don't you have the Pro Bowl in the Super Bowl city though? Too, to have why is it in Orlando? It never makes sense. I understood like Hawaii was after the Super Bowl. It was a way to celebrate the final part of the season and the way you did it. But the fact that the NFL doesn't bring it to the Super Bowl city to add a little bit more excitement with more superstars never made any sense to me.
That's actually a really good point, DRS. That might be where Commissioner Whiteside has flexed his best.
How much money I can make these guys? Come on.
Because Orlando is great, right? Warm weather, all that is very exciting. But they basically go to non-cold environments now where they can play games indoors, which is what they can do right away in New Orleans.
Correct. It never made any, like, you give me the Pro Bowl in Vegas before that. Now, granted, everybody's already getting there or there, and the NFL has all of their PR. And why are we stretching it out to Orlando and then saying, hey, if you guys want to go? No, it should be that the weekend before in the Super Bowl as the official kickoff to Super Bowl week. It makes too much sense.
All right. Commissioner Whiteside. I like it. I got you. Hour 3 next. It's hour number 3, our third and final live right here on a Thursday, and it is going to be a very good time. The final hour for Donnie Whiteside as a member of the early line this football season as he heads to New Orleans.
Don't pause.
Come on. That
resignation.
Was good, right?
That's going to be a lot of tears at the end of this hour when I put my resignation in. So make sure you stick around for the highest rated hour we've ever had. Get after it.
Donnie's final hour.
Yep, there you go.
This football season as he heads to New Orleans on Sunday for SportsGrid Super Bowl 59 coverage. You'll probably see DRS on the early line next week. We'll have a lot of videos and content and all that good stuff from our set in the Big Easy. Just it will be myself and Joe Ranieri holding down the fort next week. So we need everything from DRS here. We'll get the proper perspective with Tom Vecchio, where those numbers have changed or shifted, or other bets that Vecchio has already started to keep an eye on for Super Bowl 59 since when we saw him on Monday. We'll talk hardwood handicaps. We'll go around the NBA, some college basketball as well. But then, Donnie, we'll do his final pick six of the year as well. Get his thoughts, his handicaps for Super Bowl 59 before he heads to New Orleans. And, Donnie, you fade the public poll that is sure to be electric to start off this third and final hour.
The only way to get it started here, you got to reach out to see what the people are feeling out here and pick a topic that's most likely going to get them angry. That's the way you do it, and I think we did it here.
If the Chiefs win the Super Bowl after the game, Travis Kelsey will? That's what we wanted to hear from the people. It's time right now for Fade the Public. One last great parting shot to get Donnie Rightside all riled up, headed to New Orleans. If the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, of course, that would not be Donnie's desired outcome. After the game, Travis Kelsey will. Your four options at SportsGrid on Twitter: propose to Taylor Swift, retire from the NFL, both, or neither. More than 37.5% DRS selecting neither, which I think probably kind of in that thought, in that line of thinking, was neither because I don't care. Get this public poll off my screen. Retire from the NFL, nearly 31%. Second most votes received. Which way did Donnie Rightside vote in the Fade the Public poll?
Neither if he wins it. You kidding me? Like, you take a look and say to yourself, okay, retire from the NFL. He's not going to want to go for a fourth straight championship at that point here. And also, if he is going to play, probably not going to want to have the pomp and circumstance married to Taylor Swift until he's done with his football career. So for me, I say neither at this point. Now, if the question was if they lose the Super Bowl, the retire from the NFL is a big thing. And yes, the marriage proposal, I don't think is coming on the field. If they lose, what kind of celebratory mood is that actually going to be? So for me, him winning the Super Bowl, he's coming back. He's going to try to make a run for a fourth spot there. Look at that.
Wow, look at all these photos.
Midnight Rodeo.
This is great.
How about the Midnight Rodeo? What's that from? Yeah.
I don't know. That's them at the U.S. Open, though, for tennis. I know that for sure. They're having a good time. Patrick Mahomes and Brittany Mahomes, to the right of them. There's them celebrating, I believe, last year's Super Bowl victory. Those are cutouts. That doesn't even look like Taylor Swift.
No.
Is that actually Taylor Swift's face?
I don't know.
Think so. Here, stateside, we don't have as much bandwidth to bet on, like, Taylor Swift props on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Up in the Great White North, though, where regulations are a little bit lighter, they'll put up those Taylor Swift props. How many appearances on camera? How many times is she shown? Will Travis Kelsey propose at the end of Super Bowl 59? I don't think a lot of people are hoping for that, right? A Chiefs victory and then having to see Travis Kelsey pull an Ian Johnson and propose to his girlfriend on the actual turf. I don't expect that to be the case, but I did vote for both. Really, we're getting to a point of the conversation, Donnie, with Travis Kelsey. This is his 12th year in the National Football League. He is 35 years old, turned 35 in October, will be 36 at some point in the duration of the 2025 NFL campaign. I do believe, much like his brother Jason the previous few years, Travis is contemplating his future in the NFL. He's still highly productive. We know how prolific that playoff connection has been between Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelsey. He is a face of the National Football League. He is a face of sport right now in pop culture because of course, who his girlfriend is. You can hate it. It is the reality. And from a football perspective, still moves the needle for Kansas City. As much a part, perhaps, of this historic and dynastic run as Andy Reid, as Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelsey certainly in the fold as well. Donnie, let's just talk about the actual football sense of this. If Kansas City wins a Super Bowl, do you think we see Travis Kelsey back for the start of the three-peat in 2025?
No doubt about it. Nobody's giving up on that. Like, you run this until the wheels fall off. Now, he's played a lot of football, made a lot of money, and if he gets married, they're not going to have to worry about any money issues for the rest of their generation or 15 generations after that. But there is something to be said about, like, you did a lot already. If Travis Kelsey retires at the end of this and they lose, he's the best tight end to ever play the sport. Nobody's going to question that here. He's got multiple Super Bowl rings and a ton of cash, still young enough in his life to live it and do whatever he wants for the rest of it, and maybe even make more money off the field than he does on the field. So there is something to say, but he's not going to, like, usually you win and you retire. Hey, we went back to back. That's great. Like, I'm at the end of it here. You win 3 and you still have some energy left in that body. You are going to ride this until the wheels fall off at that point. So I don't think when they win, he's going to retire. I finally did enough here. If it was his first Super Bowl, then yes, maybe he would retire at that point. But no, if they win it, he's going to try for a 4th spot, really just to add to immortality at that point.
There is the idea, right, of going out with glory, going out atop the mountain. How could you pass this precipice? Well, Kansas City continues to reach that pinnacle year after potentially a 3rd consecutive year. Shout out to Joe Frizo tracking this down. Shout out to the FanDuel Sportsbook up in Canada. If you're taking in your Super Bowl watch festivities out there, we have a lot of Canadian viewers here on the network. Will Travis Kelsey propose to Taylor Swift post-Super Bowl? There is that actual market on FD Canada. No, the hefty favorite, minus 1,500.
Yeah, he's not going to – I don't think he's going to take that moment as, like, you figure this engagement is going to be one that's going to be spent somewhere on a rented-out island by themselves with 60 photographers ready to capture that moment at all times. And also, if he is planning this only if they win, like, hey, bring the ring here, put it out there. Oops, I'll save this for a later time. Just wanted to let you know 3 months later, I was going to propose you at the Super Bowl if we won. That's certainly not going to happen at this point. But also, the shout-out Ian Johnson, who is still married to the same girl that he did propose to there. So showing a little bit of, look, you could play getting, engaged after a meaningless bowl game here, getting engaged after losing a Super Bowl sort of weighs the same.
Come on now. Now.
Sort of.
The 2007 Fiesta Bowl was not meaningless. We were having a wonderful conversation until you said that. That was back in the day where bowls were decided in the BCS era. Anything could have been.
I enjoyed that game.
Come on, man.
I did enjoy that game.
Come on.
To be honest. I stayed up and watched it. I didn't have to go to bed early. It was a good game. We were rooting against Oklahoma, so I'll give it a little bit more. And again, it adds to the future that they still are married to this point. So look at that. Right. How about that?
A great
football
love
players
story.
And cheerleaders. Love story.
Or football players and huge monumental musical artists. By the way, FanDuel also has Travis Kelsey to get engaged with Taylor Swift in 2025. Minus 125. I agree with the FanDuel.
I think it happens.
I do believe it happens this year. Down on the knee trap. More on the early line up next. We are 10 days away from Super Bowl 59, and for the second time in this week, in the build-up to Super Bowl week in New Orleans, Tom Vecchio is here. Have his thoughts on the prop market for the biggest game of any football season changed? Has his opinion of what the odds dictate for the outcome and how this game will look in the Big Easy moved at all? Tom Vecchio, TV Tom of the SportsGrid Network. We're glad to have you here once again on this Thursday.
Of course, thanks for having me. Yeah, things are looking, I would say, pretty good. I was on Game Time Decisions the other night with Kevin, and we were breaking down some of the special markets. We'll get into some special markets today. I'm ready to roll. We are in for a really solid game coming up, obviously, as everyone would anticipate. Let's get right into it. Like, no wasting time.
No wasting time at all, Tom Vecchio. And the market is basically the same. Still a 1.5 spread in favor of the Chiefs. Minus 130 now on the money line. It was minus 124 for about the previous 48 hours. Total remains the same at 49.5. The under has slight more vig than that on the over. Vecchio, it's Thursday of the week before Super Bowl week. Are you feeling any different at all about this game from how you felt at open at the end of championship weekend?
Not entirely. I think things are largely in line with, what I felt a couple of days ago. I'm still waiting for a 50 to pop up on the board to bet that under. And then I really, really think this game's going to start off slow, like most Super Bowls do. Just the nerves, whatever it might be, starting off super scripted and then buying into a live over 41, 42, 43, hopefully trying to find a nice middle. Obviously, this is something that I would like to do in an ideal circumstance. Those numbers may never appear. We may never get 50. May stay at 49, could come down to 49 and a half. We may never get a live 41. That's what I want to see happen because that's what I think how teams will start just generally Super Bowls getting off a bit slow. So I'm largely in line with what I thought. Some of the props have moved. Some of the juice has moved just a little bit, but it's generally going in the direction that I anticipated.
If we do see a number right around 50, as it shows on the FanDuel Sportsbook, 49.5 is the total, that means we will get some touchdowns, and that touchdown scoring market starts with Saquon Barkley to minus 190 price, Hurts minus 115, two Eagles in the top of the standings and juiced under there. Now you take a look at Kelsey, Hunt, Worthy, A.J. Brown, and so forth. Are you playing touchdown props, or are you just trying to decide which touchdown props to play?
Yeah, I'm on some touchdown props already. The Chiefs have been specifically bad against tight ends this year, so I'm already on Dallas Goedert for a touchdown just because I like the number, I like the matchup. I don't want to be going to Barkley or Hurts. Those are just numbers I don't bet, as I've said routinely. Stop laying minus odds on touchdowns. The first player I would consider on that list is Xavier Worthy, just based on his overall role in the offense and the odds. And then it gets to A.J. Brown. It gets to Dallas Goedert. I have a little position on DeAndre Hopkins, the veteran. I know he hasn't had a huge impact in the playoffs thus far, but they brought him in for a reason. He deserves a Super Bowl if we're being honest about things in terms of just his career success. So getting him at plus 550 for a touchdown, I think, is a great, even though he may hit the under on his yards, under on his receptions, I still think a TD in the red zone, trusted veteran source for Mahomes is a viable outcome.
So, Vecchio, a lot of players, a lot of bettors out there are probably looking at Super Bowl 59, and it might be their first time betting the NFL this season, or maybe they're just like, hey, I got to get down on the biggest game. And they're like, oh, I want Saquon Barkley to score, minus 190. I want Jalen Hurts to score, minus 115. You are a great anytime touchdown bettor, which is still a random event, even for the best of the best in the biggest game. How do you advise betting minus money prices to score a touchdown?
My initial reaction, as I've said many times across all the pregame shows that I've done with Adam and Dave, is like, those aren't good bets. You shouldn't be betting them. Do you want to take a little position on a player to have a first touchdown on a quarter unit bet just because you want to get a little bit of action in there? Sure, that can be fine. But ultimately, the way I would play a minus odds touchdown is like a very metered approach when it comes to potentially an SGP, where you think Saquon will score and the Eagles would win. Those are very, very correlated, so you're not going to be getting the best odds. But again, I don't want to be laying a straight bet on minus 190, minus 200, whatever he might be.
Let's take a look at some of those Super Bowl specials. Have some fun here with the FanDuel Sportsbook, Tom. If you've looked at any of those here, anytime pick six, 6-1, 75-plus yard touchdown, 17-1. Even other ones, maybe a Philly special repeat where a quarterback catches a touchdown at 70-1. Any fun with any one of these bets that you see here?
Yeah, I would say it's along that Philly special 2.0, let's call it. Let's have a non-quarterback touchdown at 28-1, right? Non-quarterback passing touchdown. It's absolutely very specific. That's different than a quarterback receiving touchdown. But a trick play coming out wouldn't be too much of a surprise. It is at 28-1. It is a 3.4 implied probability. We have to understand, this is an extreme long shot. Yes, we want to have, I don't want to say cautious, but we want to have, realistic bets that we're going to be betting just as we would at any other football game, but we also want to have a little bit of fun because it is the last NFL game of the season. So I don't mind a non-QB passing TD at 28-1. Again, Philly special 2.0.
Love that. First carry touchdown for Saquon Barkley. That 50-1 price would have hit last week. We'll see if it continues to do the same, or 500-1 price, whatever that large number would be.